Yes, bannayuganda munatusanyuka mu studio. Tukomyewo ne story ekwatagana n'ono omukyala. Yes, we are back in the studio ku story ekwatagana n'ono omukyala, and the secrets behind her and how she has actually been hiding within like a Museveni government. Amaze emyaka n'emyaka nga yeekweka mu gavumenti ya Museveni, naye olwaleero tukomyewo okukuwa obubaka bwonna. Buli bino atabisobola if you do not understand things that have to do with politics. Ke kaseera osookodde ebbali kubanga this is something that's not kyetaaga nti obeere nga wakiri you understand somehow. Si bino nti ate break news oba biki. This is the truth of the truth, nti naffe ababikuweereza tetumanyi ekiyinza otutuukako nti I don't know what can end up happening to me tomorrow, mba simanyi nti kiki ekiyinza okuntuukako. So olwaleero tujja kuyita mweno story otegeere buzibu ki Uganda bwe tulina. Obuzibu bwe tulina, it does not just end with Museveni. Byatandika dda naye kati ngaffe abavubuka gwampuliriza kati ali mu myaka gyaffe, ngaffe abavubuka ffe kennyini ffe abalina okwenunula, naye tulina okunoonyereza amazima g'amazima ebyaddala, si bino just ebya bulijjo nti ate simanyi nti ffe kennyini tulina okwenoonyereza amazima agaddala. Kaakati gana bino byogenda okulaba ku ebikwatagana n'ono omukyala, byatandika okuva edda bikwata ku jjajjaawo, bikwata ku gundi baani bonna byoliko kati nti ono omukyala nti ono omukyala okuva ku ntandikwa yazze nga generation yaffe yonna agisaasaanyiza n'agiteeka ku ttaka. Ono omukyala generation yaffe agitadde ku ttaka amazima ga Katonda. Kati gwe aliwo n'atuwuliriza oyinza okulowooza nti byakusaaga, but what I want you to do nti mu bulamu bwo weeweeyo kano akadde tusooke tuyiteeyitemu buli kimu kyonna. wali mugamba nti abo bali mugamba nti diversion musooke mubaveeko, abo gona magezi basuula amagezi dda. Kati tugenda ntandika okuva ku ntandikwa tukulage nti okuva we byatandikira mpaka kutuuka kweno keesi ya Fred Lumbuye. Okutuuka kweno keesi ya Fred Lumbuye otegeere kiki ekigenda maaso kiraba. Kaakati nga tutonagenda wala, before we go any further, let me play a video from actually an investigator from 2016 okuva mu 2016 which is like tugiyita ki olugula luggi, ekigula luggi. Katusooke tukulage eno video, they're going to uncover a few of the stories, and then after tulyoke tugende maaso with our own investigation. Nti gwatuddeeyo agamba nti diversions byakulimba byaki. This is the time otegeere bizibu ki bye tulina mu Uganda, where did it begin and where are we actually going. So kantandike ne video ey'ono omusajja osooka owuliriza exactly ebigambo bye, and then we go ahead as with like our investigation.
Typically, when we think of genocide, we think of Rwanda, for example, right? There was inter-ethnic violence between Hutu and Tutsi, where we saw on a daily basis on TV people actually either getting cut with a machete or getting shot. And that is typically what we view as genocide. But in Uganda, it was different. When General Yoweri Museveni seized power in 1986, and he observed that he was getting some resistance from primarily the northern part of Uganda, he came up with this idea, which was to confine 90% of the population in concentration camps. And in these camps, there was no food, there was no hydration, there was no sanitation, there was sexual violence by his soldiers who were supposedly protecting this population from the rebels who were fighting against him. The World Health Organization did a study ultimately in 2005 and found that in these camps there were more than 1,000 excess deaths per week. So if we go by that estimate alone, we would be talking about 52,000 people dead per year. And those camps lasted for at least 20 years, meaning it's quite possible 1 million people died. And the most shameful thing is that the Western countries that support General Museveni were aware of this. And why do I say this? Because John Egeland, who at the time was the Secretary of the United Nations Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, went to Uganda and he observed this and he called this the world's worst neglected crisis. And he wrote about it. And yet nothing was done by the United Nations or the countries that primarily support Museveni with financing for his budget, military training, and arms. And these countries are primarily the United States and the United Kingdom. That's why this documentary was referred to as a brilliant genocide. It was done in a very different manner that allowed Museveni to get away with it, at least up to date.
So the idea is that because Museveni has been a very strong U.S. ally, now that even though he's been a dictator essentially, I mean, he says he's democratically elected, but he's been in power for over 30 years now, the
Right.
U.S. ignores this tragedy while then focusing on its neighbor, for example, President Bashir in Sudan, and
Right.
Obviously the conflict there, and for example, the Darfur situation has been
Correct.
highlighted by the world community, but Uganda is ignored, and it's because of this relationship with Museveni. Why is our relationship so strong? Why are we so allied as a U.S., I'm sorry, the U.S. country is so allied with Museveni as president?
Okay, for a number of reasons. One reason is that he has positioned himself as the U.S. ally in the war against Islamic quote-unquote terrorism. And primarily, as we see, Somalia is in a very chaotic position, very anarchic. And what Museveni did was that he volunteered Ugandan soldiers to police Somalia, to fight against Al-Shabaab. And he stationed 10,000 Ugandan troops in Somalia. So the United States obviously would prefer to have Ugandan soldiers die in Somalia instead of American troops. So for that reason, he gets a blank check. But even if we look at the Somalia situation, and anybody can do this research, it's been documented that his own army, Museveni's army, has been fueling some of the violence in Somalia by attacking civilians and also by selling weapons to part of the elements that are fighting the Somali government. So in other words, Museveni used the Somali conflict as sort of a way to blackmail the United States, because he's threatening several times to withdraw Ugandan troops from Somalia anytime the United States raises the issues of human rights. That's the first part. Then the second part is that Uganda has intervened militarily many times in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And as a result of the Ugandan invasions into the Congo, there's been a continuous conflict in the Congo that's resulted in the deaths of more than 6 million people. But even though these atrocities are occurring in the Congo, there's some Western countries that have been mining resources from the Eastern Congo. So Museveni, even despite the death of millions of people in the Congo, is still being protected, even in the Congo, because there's some Western companies, including American companies and Canadian companies, that are benefiting from the resources of the Congo. And in the Congo, it's well known also because in 2005, the International Court of Justice ruled against Uganda and found Uganda liable for massacres in the Congo and plunder of resources, and ordered Uganda to pay Congo $10 billion. Not a dime has been paid. This story was widely ignored by most international media. And then the second thing that happened is this. the Congo referred the same alleged crimes to the International Criminal Court. And according to an article in the Wall Street Journal on June 8, 2006, it's a front page story, General Museveni himself contacted then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan and asked him to block that investigation. Now, I don't know what happened, but it seems to me that investigation was indeed blocked. Because if the ICC had gone by the same set of facts used by the International Court of Justice that found Uganda liable, Museveni might have been indicted. So it's very cynical when you hear Western media talk about Bashir being indicted and being wanted by the ICC, when in fact, one of the Western countries must have played a role in blocking the ICC's own investigation of the atrocities committed by the Ugandan military in the Congo.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the prospect for resources, obviously such a major factor in the West's relationship to Africa, going back to the 19th century, obviously the colonial desire for resources, controlling resources.
Right.
What is it in Uganda? Is it oil in the north? Is that one of the major resources that the United States is after in its relationship with Museveni?
That is also the new factor. 5, 6, 7 years ago, Uganda discovered significant oil finds in the northern part of Uganda and in the western part of Uganda, and going into southern Sudan as well. So this is the gamble that the United States seems to have made. They would rather deal with General Museveni and give him a blank check for any atrocities in Uganda than deal with a democratically elected government in Uganda that would actually probably have to get parliamentary approval for a lot of these activities, at least in terms of deploying troops. Parliament would have to play a role in it, but right now, as it is, it's a decision that's made by one individual, and that's Yoweri Museveni. Whether it's deploying troops in Somalia, or deploying troops in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or deploying troops in southern Sudan, where Ugandan troops are now, in fact, playing a very large role in the turmoil that's going on in southern Sudan, because Museveni favors President Salva Kiir against the former Vice President Riek Machar. Salva Kiir does not have an army of his own, so he relies on Uganda's military. And Museveni is not comfortable with Riek Machar being a part of the government in southern Sudan. So this one individual who's been in power going into 31 years now has been the cause of much destruction, much bloodshed, not only in Uganda, but in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in South Sudan, and in Rwanda as well. Because let's remember, before the massacres of 1994 in Rwanda, there had been ongoing war for 4 years. After Uganda allowed elements of its army to invade from Uganda, it invaded October 1, 1990. So there was a war going on for 4 years until the presidential plane was shot down, as I mentioned earlier, and that sparked the genocide. So if you look at it directly, Uganda was in fact responsible for what ultimately resulted in the genocide in Rwanda as well. This unchecked militarism and the blank check from the United States and Great Britain has been very costly to the people of East and Central Africa.
Powerful, powerful stuff. Oof. All right, everybody, that is our show for you today. Remember, everyone, in this world, we are not told that we are loved enough. So I tell you all, I love you. I am Tyrell Ventura.
And I'm Tabitha Wallace.
Keep on watching the Hawks and have a great, great night, everybody.
Kakati baganda bange mugiwulidde. Mbadde nga njagala osooka mbalage eno video which goes through most of the details nti ze weetaaga okumanya. Sikyekyo baganda bange ndowooza mukiwulidde. Those who had like sharp ears, mwe ababadde nga mulina amatu abawulidde, ndowooza you've listened to what they said throughout the video. Boogeddeko kwa buli kimu kyonna, so they have just talked about each and every single thing that is going on from the start up to the end. Nti okutandika Museveni lwe yatandika nga ali muki mwezi entalo zegunde ezeyeekongo obawa up to now nga bakugamba nti ali mu kulwanirira ag'amafuta agali mu northern Uganda ne mu western Uganda. But that's not the point, because the point we are here today kyenjagala nti buli munnayuganda ayige kiri kimu kyokka, okumanya who is in power or who controls actually Museveni. Yani boss wa Museveni, kubanga ne Museveni naye kenyini yeeragaalaga yeefuula katonda kulw'okuba nti abasinga temumanyi amazima amatuufu, just mubirinda bulinzi diversions biki. Naye abannayuganda singa baali nga bamanya amazima, nga bamanyi yani abeera eno emabega ng'acontrollinga Museveni, mwanditegedde engeri gye tusobola okukola ki okulwanirira ensi yaffe ne kiki ekijja mu future. Kati akantu ako koolaba ku screen, ebintu ebyolaba ku screen nga bwe tubitaddeko, we want to show you from the start nga Museveni nga NRM nga kyalimu omanyi buli obupale bwe yali ng'ayambadde nga bulabika bubi, nga inaalabika ng'ogundi ng'omusabirizi, nga talina yadde kyalina, nti tutandikidde eyo waggulu. We are going to start to break it down from the top all the way to the bottom, nti otegeere who is actually this woman and how powerful she is and what she does and what she is up to right now. Kiki kyaliko kati kubanga bino byatandika dda mu 1986. Kati kye twetaaga okukola, twetaaga otandikira eri mu 1986 tujje tumalirize ewa Fred Lumbuye. Kati mwabaligamba nti simanyi nti Fred Lumbuye nti simanyi nti biveeko bino diversion, bino bikwata ku Fred Lumbuye nnyo guno omusango, kubanga ono omukyala buli kikwatagana kyonna, as long as it's like a big case that has to do with Uganda, ono omukyala abibeeramu. This woman is always involved in each and every single thing that has to do with the government of Uganda. So nga tugenda mu maaso, katusooke tutandike ne ono omukyala waali kati present time, nti aliwa kati ono omukyala olwo tumanye. Si kyekyo kansooke nkyuseeko wano nkulage, tutandike n'ono omukyala. Okay, nteekaawo kubanga bannayuganda bwe mutaayagala okuyiga ebintu nga bino, if you do not want to learn like things like this, gwe nkusaasira, me I forgive you. Si kyekyo muganda wange. Kakati tutandike ne present time. Ono omukyala saawa zino we tuli as we speak, if you want to even know it, she is now the ambassador of Uganda. She is the ambassador of Uganda in 3 countries. Ye ambassador wa Uganda in Netherlands, ye ambassador wa Uganda a Belgium, and ye ambassador wa Uganda a Luxembourg, and ye ambassador wa Uganda mu EU. Bwogenda ku gundi ku website ya embassy, bwogenda ku Uganda embassy in Netherlands, era bijja kulaga, oba embassy ya Uganda in Belgium, bijja kulaga nti era kyekimu, nti byebyo byennyini ebikwatagana n'oyo omukyala. If you think nti that's a lie, kankulage profile ye okuva ku International Criminal Court. Ku International Criminal Court, jjukira bwogenda okwewandiisa ng'oli mu kunoonyereza omulimu, bo kye bakola basooka ne banoonyereza profile oyo, ate no profile neefuuka public. So that's the only way we were able to find much information about this woman. Otherwise singa tekyali ICC public profile, era ono mukyala tetwanditegedde bingi ebimukwatako. Ku profile tetwanditegedde yadde n'akamu, because ono mukyala yeekweka. Munnayuganda gwali mutuwuliriza kati si mugundi si muzungu oba kiha, munnayuganda wa bulijjo alina ne passport ya Uganda, alina identification ya Uganda. So kankyuseeko wano nkulage. This is her profile, ekyo kyolaba ku screen. What does it say? Okutandikira eno waggulu liri erinnya ligamba nti Blackso Miriam. ago ge mannya ge amatuufu amawandiike ne ku passport ye ne ku documents ze Uganda. Those are her name, Miriam Black, Miriam So Black. Ago ge mannya ge amatuufu. If you read the first title nga kyegambye egamba nti Uganda nominee for election to board of directors at the trust fund for victims of international criminal court, nti yakulira kugonde ku international criminal court, nti yakulira the victims of anything that happens in Uganda. Tujja biddukako kweyo story oluvannyuma. So anyways katweyongereyo maaso. Profile ye egamba ki? Katutandike ne profile ye nga sinabagamba buli kimu kyonna gyali oba biki byakola. Tusooke ne profile. Kigambibwa nti she is muna Uganda. Ebyabuzungu yabyajjako, takyali muzungu yabyajjako. She is an international lawyer with 30 years of experience in an international civil servant and a diplomat. Nti emyaka 3 lawyer, emyaka 3 in diplomatic relation and the civil servant services as a lawyer. She provides advice, and she's a lawyer, or meaning she represents Uganda anytime there is like bubanga waliwo obuzibu wakati ya Uganda n'ensi endala. She is the one who goes to represent them because alina experience ey'emyaka 3. Professional legal mediator, excellent at negotiating skills. Bino kino kikulu nnyo. The second point kikulu nnyo mu nsonga ze tumaze emyaka n'emyaka nga Uganda bonaabona. Bino bikulu nnyo mwabino ebiseera bye tumaze gino emyaka nga tukola kinga twekulaakulanya. Nti under her profile kigambye nti professional legal mediator. Professional legal mediator nti kiba kitegeeza nti she knows how to negotiate at an international level. She knows how to negotiate at international level. Chichekirala, seasoned manager with entrepreneurial skills both in public and private sectors. Nti akulira gonde ba entrepreneurship ekyo sikikulu nnyo. Energetic, contributed, multicultural background, and consequence of a global citizenship. Okay, passionate about justice and strong advocate of. This is another point. The passionate about justice and strong advocate. And she is passionate about justice. Naye akolera government etagaba yadde ne ka justice yadde nakamu. So we are going to go through nga bwe tugenda maaso. This is just like a quick of understanding her her background. And then how many languages does she speak? It says on her profile eno kipapula kiva ku ICC. Kiva ku ICC directly. Okiraba nti excellent knowledge of any of and fluent in several European languages. Nti ayogera ennimi ezisinga mu Europe. Maybe oyinza osanga n'olutakishi already ono omukazi akoze ki alwogera. Okiraba oyinza osanga ono kuba tujja kumalira ngenda bagamba story y'ono omukyala ekimukwatako. Just mbawagundika background akatinitini nnyo. Yavaawa nga bwolaba personal data kigamba nti from Azest in Netherlands. Yava Netherland. She's from Netherlands. Abali mugamba nti volume mwongezeko gundi ku masimu ge mu volume eri okay. Kubanga ndi mukwewulira I can test my own volume. Yes, muzungu ali mukubuza nti she white. Wakirabya ekifaananyi ngenda kuzaamu nkulaga ekifaananyi. Yes, muzungu. So she's originally yazaliwa Netherlands. Muzungu yazaliwa Netherlands. Nationality, she is now Ugandan. Kati sawa zino twogerera, she is a Ugandan, and she revoked her Dutch passport and her Dutch ye yabibjako ebyagunda ebyabazungu ebyajjako kati ye amugundi muna Uganda. Married and with 2 sons. Yali mukyala wagundi owa general mu NRM eyafa nerabidde n'erinnya lye nandibadde nga noonyereza nga mbaleeta n'erinnya lye naye ndingalye n'erinnya lye I think I have it somewhere in other documents. Nti married with a son and 2 daughters. Eyali baawe yali mugundi general mu NRM naye nga yafa. I think he died back in like 1990s nga NRM nga bakawamba gundi egwanga. So anyways, now you know just a bit of like alina gundi Ugandan passport kulokuba nti she revoked her Dutch passport. Naye ngenda kubulira story yonna nga bwe tugenda maaso. Abali mugamba nti volume eri okay bambi. Volume eri okay kubanga ndi mukwegezaako nti nina headphones ate ndi mukwegezaako I can hear myself. Volume eri fine. Neewulira bulungi. So simanyi abali mugamba nti ali mugamba nti volume tebampulira bulungi. Okay, anyways tugende maaso. Ebirala the rest ngenda basindikira link. I can share the link muddemu muyiseyiseemu amaaso musome buli kimu kyonna kubanga eno document okuva ku ICC erina buli kimu kyonna, because before you join ICC olina obawa information ezikukwatako. You have to give all information. Kati bino byonna byolaba bimukwatako okuva lwe yamaliriza university, okuva lunaku lwe yatandika university. Eno document kimukwatako buli kimu kyonna, and this is the only document that she cannot even try to hide this document, because it's a public document from ICC. Bobanga bali mukunga when they're going to give you a job. If they're going to give you a job, they first give you this. They first have to go through like an interview, and then that interview goes public. So anyways, nga tuva ku ekyo katugende ku katuddeyo wano kugundi ku present. Kankume wano ku present so you can understand where we are going with this woman. Okay, so for present nga bwe twogera kati abaagala okumanya gyali. First, she is of course a Ugandan citizen. She has a Ugandan citizenship. Sikyekyo there's not even like we cannot even dispute it. Alina, she is a muzungu nga bamulaba ku screen, muzungu naye amaze emyaka 3 mumeka mu Uganda. Alina passport ya Uganda. Ekyo sikiwakanya kubanga oli muzungu alina passport ya Uganda obanga oli muna Uganda. It's okay, that happens. Ekyokubiri, she is the ambassador. She is the ambassador of Uganda. Nga bwolaba ku screen bwoba osobola bisoma. She is the ambassador of Uganda in Netherlands. So what it is, she is the ambassador of Uganda in Netherlands, in Belgium, in Luxembourg, and EU. Nti ensi satu eza mu Europe. And also she is ICC representative. Nti representative ku ICC. Wakiraba? Tuve ku ekyo. Olwo twogedde nti yaani just ebimukwatako ava Netherland naye yejjako passport ebimukwatako by'okuva Netherland n'afuuka munnauganda mu biseera byali ng'atandika nani ne Museveni. Tuli mu kwogera ku just the present, tetunagenda mu gundi in the past. Okiraba? And then why is she in the place where she is at the moment? Kulwaki alimu ebyo ebifo bisatu. Alimu ebyo ebifo bisatu because they are the most important position that Museveni has ever put a person in the government. And she holds the highest position in the government of Museveni than anybody else. Alina emirimu, she has 4 jobs. Ali ambassador of Netherlands, ambassador of Belgium, and ambassador of Luxembourg, and also ambassador to EU. And she is also the legal representative of Uganda at all justices around the world. Nti wabanga waliwo ekibaddewo ekikwatagana ne Uganda nti Uganda balina omusango bakoze eki nti automatically she is the one who goes and represents the government of Uganda. Okitegeera? Olwo okitegedde. When she has been in that position since 2014. She has been at the in all those positions since 2014, but she's been within the government of Uganda since 1990s. Nga basinga mwena bali muwuliriza kati nga temunazaalibwa since 1990s nga she was whatever part of the government, where of course we've said where she is and what she is. Olwo tuve ku ekyo, and then we go now to the real stories okusinzirira ku agenda gye tuliko. Tutandike n'olunaku lwasooka nga before she even joined Museveni, before she ran into Museveni. Nti mu 1980s ono omukyala yalina omulimu ng'akola nga yakatandika omulimu mu UNHCR. Yali ng'akolanga ku mulimu ogwa UNHCR bino ebikwatagana ne ba refugee yali nga yakamaliriza gundi okusoma Sweden Netherland ne bamusindika ng'afunye ogw'omulimu which is like her position was UNHCR protective officer. A protective officer yono omuntu UN gwe basindika to go and protect the people using legal means, using negotiations, whatever, in order to protect the people. Era byolaba Fred Lumbuye byaliko kati nti omusango gwe bwe nga guyiseemu ono looya ng'aguwangudde nti emikono gya Lumbuye bagikwasiza ba UN. Kati UN bo basindika gwe bayita a protective officer, ye najja n'amulabirira n'amulagirira n'amugamba nti okay, tujja kuwerekera okuva Turkey mpaka maybe Sweden oba okiraba. So that's her job. Ogwo gwe gwali mulimu gwe. Ogwo gwe gwali mulimu gwe nga akola mu UN okiraba. And then why was she doing it? Of course, eringa yakatandika nga yakamaliriza okusoma, where she had been positioned in East Africa. Nti yali akoleranga Kenya, but she used to look after Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, ensi zonna, but her main office was in Kenya. Kakati kulwaki in Kenya? Why in Kenya? Nti in Kenya it was the best place because nga bwe tugenda maaso ojja kulaba nti at the time nga government ya Museveni nga government ya Obote nga bali mu kulwana awo mu 1980s 1986 nga wali mentalo nti ba Museveni ne banne bonna ne bano ba Lugunda bano ba Mama Mbabazi bani bonna, they ran all the way to to Kenya. They went to hide in Kenya. So when they went to Kenya, this is where they ran into this woman. Wero hawe wasooka we basisinkana ono omukyala nga badduka government ya Obote. They meet her in Kenya as she was working as a UN protective officer. Kati kye yakolera Museveni ne family ye ne bano ba Lugunda bani bonna mu bwangu bo kye yabakolera. She got them a quick visa nga ne government ye Kenya nga tebamanyi n'abafunira visa ne bakwata kye bayita a straight flight. A straight flight nti yeri oyingira mu nyonyi tewala kubuuza questions ki oba biki ya UN n'abayingiza mu nyonyi ya UN n'ababuusa mpaka e Sweden. Ye yafunira Museveni empapula okuyingira e Sweden ono omukyala. Bw'oba oyagala okukakasa story ye ngenda bateerako ne linki musome gundi ekwatagana ku eyo story ng'ono omukazi ye kennyini nga ali mukola gundi eyo interview nkiraba nga ali mukola gundi eyo interview. Anyways, so tumaliriza ekikwatagana ne ku history ye nga yakatandika ogwo omulimu mu biseera byasisinkana ne Museveni nti yabasanga e Kenya nga naye ali mukola mu bya UN n'abayamba n'ababuusa nga ndooza balimba ono mukyala ne bamukuba gundi story namugamba nti government ya Obote tunoonyereza olwo ye n'amala n'akola ki ye n'amala n'abaddusa ne bagenda ku gundi ewa eyo Sweden kowulirize eriwa kowulirize gundi ya interview eya Obote ngoloza nti byakulimba. This is jukire no history gye tuli mu kuyitamu otegeere ku lwaki Fred Lumbuye ali mu kifo kyalimu and how can easily end up like being a problem if we do not listen careful. Si kyekyo kansooke kamalirize nkyuseeko wano screen owulirize quick interview okuva mu Obote. Abasinga already some of you must have already listened to kweno interview ya Obote mu ebyo ebiseera.
But a personal matter as far as I'm concerned.
But what do you think Yoweri Museveni wants through fighting? What is he after?
I don't know. If I knew, I would be very happy because I really don't know. Museveni was a member of the military commission. He was number 2 in the military commission. He and the rest of the members of the military commission organized elections. And soon after elections, he decided to fight. And he hasn't progressed very much. In his own area where he was born, he's not effective, he's not known, and he's a refugee himself in another part of Uganda. So I really don't know what he wants.
Whatever the wrongs of his case, wouldn't it save a lot of life and a lot of money to talk to him?
I told you it is not a personal matter. Why do you think Museveni is all that important in this country? First of all, he's not a citizen. He's not a citizen.
Where is he?
He lost an election. He has no party which is viable in this country. Because he's a gunman. Your name is Robin. Do you remember the history of England called Robin Hood?
I do.
Yes? Is it worthwhile talking to Robin Hoods of this world? Badman Ham? in Germany, the Irish Republic army people? Is it worthwhile talking to such gangsters and terrorists?
You say he's not a citizen. What do you mean by that?
Because his father was not born in Uganda. And that is the constitutional basis. So he cannot be a citizen.
The strongest advocate for talks is not coming from opposition politicians. It's coming from the...
I have answered that question. I'm not going to answer anymore. I have said I do not accept any proposal about talks, and I'm going to make this an election issue. You wait for the votes.
Do you think the forthcoming elections could in any way lead to a way out of this impasse?
What impasse? There is no impasse. The mess of the country is very peaceful. Even Luero is very peaceful. We have administration in Luero.
But do you think after the elections that the trouble might end some way?
Please, I've told you I'm not answering anymore. If you came here to talk about the dissidents, about Museveni, let us stop this interview.
If I could turn to the election.
Why don't you talk about the whole western region, which is peaceful, much of Uganda, which is peaceful, the whole eastern region, the whole northern region? Why do you talk about a handful of gunmen? And you take my time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, to talk about a handful of gunmen? You came all the way from London for this purpose? No wonder members of parliament in Britain sometimes talk about starving the BBC from funds, because you waste public funds in this type of way.
If I could turn to the elections, how do you see the next elections going?
It's going to be conducted in the normal way.
Do you think you're going to win these elections?
I think so. I can't see another party that can win this election. Our record is there. We have done some work that in 1980 people didn't know which direction Uganda would go. Everything was declining. Not today. So that with that kind of record, I can't see another party really giving us a terrible challenge.
Will you stand on your economic record, will you?
Every record, political, economic, and otherwise.
If I could talk about the economy, which things have gone well and which things have gone badly?
We started from almost position 0. Everything has started moving upwards. Obviously, they cannot all move at the same speed.
Would you accept that in the industrial sector it has been slow progress?
What could we have done in the industrial sector? We had no skilled manpower. We had machinery which had not been looked after for years. We had no raw materials. So industrial sector could not have progress at the same speed as the agricultural sector.
What are your biggest economic priorities at the moment?
Production. Production, we are asking the people of Uganda to produce anything that can be consumed in Uganda and anything that can be sold abroad.
How pleasing has the agricultural sector been to you?
You would have been very happy if you are a member of Uganda People's Congress or a member of this government by 2 factors. 1, we have food in Uganda. When I came to office, there was no food in Uganda. Now we are feeding ourselves and we are exporting some of our food. 2, our export earnings are increasing. Now, these are most pleasing developments.
There have, I'm sure you're also aware, been criticisms of your human rights record in this country, particularly from the United States of America. Now, how upset have you been by the accusations?
I have not been upset in the way you probably think I should have been. I've been upset in the sense that if you refer to the statement made by one American official in August of last year, in that he made a generalized statement but could not give us evidence to prove that the facts of that statement. If you go to Luero, you will not find any single possibility that a government such as mine could have murdered about 250,000 people within a few months, and yet no graves and no statement from the general public. So that one was very hurtful. But as I say, we are not trying to run this government for the pleasure of people abroad. We are trying to run this government for the good of the people of Uganda. And these are our people.
Baganda bange ndowooza muwulidde. That is a clear interview from Milton Obote. Kitegeera bonna bano ba president siyina gwe mbayiri siyinza okujja wano ne ŋŋamba nti baali balungi oba baali ki bonna balina ebikyamu byabwe naye owulidde mu ebyo ebiseera nga ne Obote ye kennyini yeebuuza ku lwaki nga ye already Museveni yali munnamagye kiki ekyamuyingiza mu nsiko ng'ate nga n'akalulu nga abagunda baddiibi oba baali baani bali nga baawangula akalulu okiraba nti era ekigendererwa kyabwe kyali kyakuggyako gavumenti oba bakkiriza oba tebakkiriza okiraba nga bakkiriza oba tebakkiriza kaakati nga tugenda maaso so owulidde ebyo biseera nga Obote yeebuuza nti ku lwaki Museveni yagenda mu nsiko. Anyways nga tweyongera maaso ne ku gundi ne ku interview ku gundi ku show yaffe nti tuvudde eri ku kikwatagana n'ono omukyala engeri gye yatandikamu engeri gye yasisinkana Museveni e Kenya nga akola mu gundi mu UNHCR. Kati tuvuddeyo tuze ku gundi ku gavumenti ya Obote. Gavumenti ya Obote of course nga bawulidde nti mwali mental home okwewakanya wakati y'abamagye ne biki kakati ye Museveni n'akola ki ne badduka mu nsiko era we yasisinkana oyo omukyala. Kati ono omukyala bwe yabatuusa e Sweden nga abatutte ye Sweden nga bagamba nti gavumenti enoonyereza okubata. Museveni yatuuka e Sweden n'amala n'akomawo nga family ye ng'eri safe ng'ono omukyala yamufunidde empapula buli kimu kyonna ye n'amala n'amuleeta ye Museveni yamutwala n'amutuusa e Sweden. Bwe yatuuka e Sweden ono omukyala ye kennyini n'amala n'ajjira Museveni ye kennyini n'amala n'akomawo n'ajja e Uganda. Naye lwe yajja e Uganda ono mukyala olwo yajja Uganda gundi Museveni olwo yakomawo e Uganda yasigala ng'alina connection ez'ono omukyala baasigala nga bali connected. Kati awo ogenda tandika oconnectinga zi dots oconnectinge okutuuka mpaka wetuli kati wetuli ku kikwatagana ne ku muganda waffe Fred Lumbuye ne ku lwaki twetaaga okumanya at the international level kiki ekigenda maaso muganda waffe ali safe oba tali safe si kyekyo. Kati tweyongereyo maaso ngenda mbalaga nga tukyagira nga nkyali kwogera ku gundi kwono omukyala ngenda kulaga gundi story eri bino byonna gundi jjukira zino information w'oyagalidde if you want osobola bisanga ku internet gyebiri gwe kennyini gwalina okwenoonyereza n'omanya ky'olina okukola naye nga each and every single information I'm giving you right now si tetubironda bulonzi we do not just pick it from the street gyebiri. Waliwo article gye baawandiika mu 2014 waliwo article gye baawandiika mu 2015 title yeno ku gundi nga bw'ogiraba ku screen egamba Uganda's only muzungu ambassador who saved Mbabazi and Lugunda's lives. Nti omuzungu omu who is a Ugandan and an ambassador who is a Muzungu and an ambassador who saved Mbabazi and Lugunda. How did it happen? Bino byonna bw'obisoma olaba n'erinnya lye kweriri nga ligamba nti Miriam Black. You can find this information on the internet and he goes through kulaga buli kimu kyonna even how he encountered. You can see title egamba nti encounter with the rebels. Ebyo ebiseera aba NRA be baali bagundi baki the rebels mu gundi mu 19 and then the trial bedsitter nti n'abasuza ne mu kayumba akali awo akatini nnyo yabataasa nga bagenda bata and then bw'osoma gundi enno yonna buli kimu kyonna kikugamba ate ne bamala ne bamaliriza n'agamba nti ekyansanyusiza n'okugundi kweno interview gye baawandiika ono omukyala ye kennyini yagamba bugambi nti yali amukozesa interview yagamba bugambi nti even if she knows nti abantu baakolera the people that she works for nti si balungi she has no choice but to do what? To work with them. Kiraba she no longer has no choice okujjako okolagana n'abo abantu. Already kitegeeza nti already she knows nti the people she works for they are not good people, and this is back in 2014. Si kyekyo, this is back in 2014, anyways nga tuvaayo ke we tubadde ku government ya Obote kati tukyogeddeko just briefly she when she met like Museveni and helped them okutuuka eyo gye bagendayo Sweden ne bamala ne bakomawo buli kimu kyonna kati ye Museveni olwo ng'amaze osecuringa family eyo Sweden bakomawo e Uganda ne batandika olwo olutalo olw'omunsiko era kiwalaba nti bo baalwana nga tebalina tabbu kuba bakimanyi nti family zaabwe zaali seefu nga ziri eyo mu nsiko. Tuve ku ekyo tudde ku NRA recognition, ku NRA o NRM recognition. Ono omukyala kubanga engeri nti yali ng'ali connected already mu UN, engeri nti yali ng'ali connected ku zi organization nyingi ez'enjawulo gunda mu nsi zonna, bo kye baakola lwe yakomawo ono mukazi Museveni bwe yakomawo mu Uganda nga government ya Obote ng'emaze okugwa, kino ekibiina kya NRA oba bano kye bakyusa ne kifuuka NRM, nti what they did, ono omukyala yabayamba n'obayamba, she made some connection with international organizations and they recognized NRA, meaning if he was not this woman, NRA bandigitreatinzenga the same way as you see other this Konyi rebel in the northern Uganda, era bandisigadde nga bagiyita just ngeri yawo nga tebirina mugaso kiraba. So ono omukyala yeeyo mission eyasooka, that was the first mission to help, aside from helping Museveni to go to Sweden, this was the first mission ye yayambako Museveni okulaba nti they recognize NRA, which is today NRM. So meaning she's actually part of the founder of NRM ngabo oba UPDF, kubanga UPDF, NRM and NRA byonna kyekimu, byonna byatandikira mu kagundi in one organization. So ono omukyala alinga ye yali mweja emikono egyobayamba at the international level okuforminga kye bayita NRM etutulugunya olwaleero, oba NRA yafuuka UPDF naye etutulugunya olwaleero. Kiraba nti already that was her first mission. Who was involved? Of course, Museveni yaliko when this was back mu 1986s or 1990s, where of course in Uganda, and what this was just to legalize a Uganda government. Bali bagala okulegalizinga gundi NRA erabike nti basirikale bakumba dembe mu Uganda. So that was like the first accomplishment in order for them to be accepted at the international level. Tuve ku ekyo tudde ku international relation. So bwe bamaliriza nga Museveni amaze okulaba amaanyi g'ono omukyala, he began to connect this woman to multiple different places. Kyeyasookerako era nga bwogenda kiraba kwa zino zi documents, documents gyendi mu kugamba eyava mu ICC. This I did not, and saawandiika kino ki document sinze yakiwandiika. It is her who submitted the document to ICC. Era we found this document because ICC does not hide their documents. They keep all documents public. Nti ayagadde they can easily have access to those documents. So the documents you're reading with like all her information is actually from ICC. Is a document from ICC nga kuliko every information of this woman from where she was born and what she is and what she's doing right now. Ebyo byonna ICC documents ebyo ebirina. So under this document, kankyuseko wano ku screen olabe, this is katutandike mu 19 so 1970 85 legal associate okay so kyeyasooka okukola at the international recognition yayamba government ya Uganda nga bwolaba mu gundi mu eriwa 1995 to 1996 she was the European Union promoting Uganda. She was promoting Uganda. This is not a lie. Mu 1995-1996, she was a part of the team which was promoting Uganda at EU. Since everyone say this is like a document from ICC. Ngabo biraba ngakigamba nti mu 1990s wona mpaka ngoli waggulu nti